Welcome back to another episode of Smalls That Sell. And for those of you that are new to the channel, what this series is all about is taking items that are hot and trending in the big box stores, like these two little tables here, and we break them down and I teach you how they were made so you can go home, put your own twist to it, and make them for yourself. So in this episode, I'll be teaching you how to make this condiment table and this never seen before napkin dispenser. So real quick before we jump into the video, I want to share something with you guys. So for those of you that follow the channel, you know that I can tend to get a little bit preachy. I call it passionate whenever it comes to believing in yourself, never backing down, and how a simple change of mindset can change your life. Now I've received countless messages from people that have overcame things that they thought were holding them back. Now, I'm not talking about someone that may be a little low on cash or something like that. I'm talking about people that are missing limbs, wheelchair bound, or people that are constantly fighting the demons in their head that are telling them that they cannot do something. And I get inspired by these stories from people that have overcome these obstacles, have won those battles. So a couple of weeks ago, I received a voice dictated email from a gentleman named Paul. Paul is a woodworker that uses table saws, band saws, miter saws, pretty much everything in a woodworking shop, and he is 100% blind. So when Paul wrote, he wasn't writing me to tell me that he was a blind woodworker and how he had overcome all of these obstacles, but simply wrote to ask my opinion about workflow changes around his shop or jigs that would help to improve safety. So we hopped on a call, did some brainstorming, came up with some great ideas for his place and his workflow, and that was it. But not once during that conversation did Paul say anything about I cannot do this because I'm blind. It was, can you help me to figure out how to do this step because I can't actually see what's going on? Now, yes, he did admit that some things were scary, but none of that is holding him back. Paul is living his best life and overcoming anything that has been thrown his way and that keeps coming his way because he refuses to let fear or something that is out of his control him or his life. So just think about that for a minute. The things that may be holding you back from getting into woodworking, starting a business, or really anything in life. Think about all of the different obstacles Paul had to overcome, not just the fear, but overcoming 1,000 other things that go along with woodworking and not being able to see. So honestly, what is your excuse? Do what you want to do, override what your brain is telling you that you can't, and do it. So no more excuses. Get all of this negativity out of your head and live your best life. After all, we only have one of them, so live it to its fullest. Be like Paul and refuse to let anything get in your way. I've said it tons of times on this channel. I believe in you. It's time for you to start believing in yourself. So Paul, my man, I know that you are listening to this right now. I just want you to know that you have truly inspired me down to my core, and hopefully your story will help to inspire others. So now that I've got that out of my system, let's go ahead and hop into this video. Okay, so this first one will be a 2-tier live edge shelf. Okay, so I know what you may be saying right now. I don't have access to live edge. Yeah, you kind of do. So this is a piece of scrap live edge from some maple that I was working. And this is a piece of pine live edge that wasn't live edge this morning. So I put this live edge design on this board using a jigsaw and a sander. So real quick before I break down this build, let me show you how to make a fake live edge. There's tons of live edge projects out there, and this is the perfect way to get that look. So there's several different ways that you can get a live edge look out of a square board. Probably the fastest way would be an angle grinder and a carving disc, but if you do not have that or you're not comfortable using it, you can do it with a jigsaw and a sander. So the first thing that I'm going to do with my jigsaw is just make a straight cut removing that square look. And then I'm going to angle the jigsaw base. All live edge will have an angle to it unless it comes from the very center of the tree. So I've just set mine up for a 45-degree angle, and then I'm just going to follow the outline that I originally made. And then once I've done that all the way down my board, I'm just going to sand out my jigsaw marks and round over that top edge so that it flows with the surface of the board. And just like that, in that short amount of time using common tools, you have now added the live edge look to a store-bought piece of wood. So now that you know how to make your own live edge look, let's break this build down. Now this entire build is 32 inches long by 16 inches tall by 6 inches deep. So that means that your live edge shelving here is only 6 inches at its widest point. So just a tip for that, every square board on earth that is sold started off with a live edge. Check out your local sawmills. They cut the edges of this stuff off every single day and they have piles of it. That's where you can pick up some of these thinner width live edge pieces. Now for this build, if you do not have natural live edge, you can do what I just did with the jigsaw and get this exact same look. So there's really only two main parts to this build, and that's going to be your two shelves and then your two horizontal slats. Those horizontal slats are 3/4 of an inch thick, 1.5 inches wide, and 16 inches long. For the spacing between these two slats, I'm going to guess that it's right around 16 inches because studs in a wall are typically 16 inches apart, and most likely this is made so each side of it can be mounted into a stud. So if we're saying that our vertical boards are 16 inches apart and the entire unit is 32 inches, that means that these live edge pieces would need to be probably right around 17 inches long a piece to account for a 1-inch overhang on each short side. And another thing is you do not even have to use live edge to get this look. You can use this with square edge, do a little bit of routing. It's a cool shelf, and they're selling it for $120. But regardless of what type of material that you decide to use for your shelf, let's talk about how they put this thing together. So they've taken their vertical board, their shelf, and they've actually half-lapped each one into each other. So in order to do that, they cut notches. So I'm going to show you just how easy it is to install these notches on the table saw. Since the narrowest of my two boards is 1.5 inches, which is my vertical board, I'm going to be cutting notches that are 3/4 of an inch deep into each piece. So for my vertical board, that 3/4 of an inch notch will be as wide as the shelf thickness. Now this may vary a little bit depending on what material that you decide to use. So before you make the cut, you can lay your shelf board right on top of your piece and just mark that out. Once I get the notch cut for my vertical boards, then I'll move on to my shelf. So with the flat part of the shelf facing down, I'm going to be cutting a notch that is 3/4 of an inch deep by 3/4 of an inch wide because my wall brackets are 3/4 of an inch wide. If I were actually building this shelf, I'd be putting both of my notches in while the saw was set up. Then once you have both of those notches cut, you're going to be left with something like this. So we have a vertical board that's going to be mounted to the wall, and just FYI on mounting, there's a couple different ways that you can do that. You can drill a hole straight through this using a long screw and a cap. You can cut keyholes out or even put some picture frame holders on this. As far as joining our shelf to our bracket, the two notches will lock together, giving you something that looks like this. And really, that's all that there is to it. So for this one, they would have one about 1 inch from the edge right here as well. Then they would have another shelf with a notch going a long ways across the bottom. Super easy to make, super easy to cut, especially if you have a dado blade. These notches can be cut in one pass, but for those that do not, you can do this on a table saw, you can cut these with a jigsaw. No excuses, it can be done. We're selling these things for $120 a piece. I would determine my price based on the size of the unit that you end up building, but depending on the species of wood that you use, I would say that $100 is not out of the question. Okay, so for this next one, check this out. So obviously you know what caught my eye. What does this thing look like? It looks like our squirrel feeder tables. And if you remember from that video, we could build these for less than $2 a piece. So whenever I saw this one for sale for $57, well, of course it got my wheels turning and I came up with this. Okay, so my bottles aren't yellow and red, but I've got those coming. So they'll probably be in the thumbnail or something. But this is what I had, so this is what I put in here. And these are the exact same sizes that they use for ketchup and mustard, but I thought it's pretty cool. And built it for less than $2. So after I decided to build my version of this, knowing that I could do it for a couple of bucks, I was trying to figure out how to change this up in a way. And there was one thing that was missing, okay? And that is paper towels. So I'm trying to figure out how to put napkins in, you know, the slots here or something like that. Because, you know, there's always a kid running around the barbecue with mustard and ketchup all over his face, or me and my beard. But if you're at a barbecue, you need a napkin or paper towels of some kind. So that got me thinking. And then I came up with this. I think it's pretty cool. And again, you can build it for less than $2. Check it out. I'm gonna set this one down. You know what this one does. I've never seen anyone make one of these before. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but I've just never seen it. But it is a paper towel picnic table. So it sits flush, pull out your paper towels, rip it off, you're ready to go. And it's going to match your condiment table here. So why not? I guarantee you that if you offer this up with the condiment picnic table, these things are going to sell. So the big box stores are selling these for $57. We know that we can make both of these for less than $4. What I would do is just test your area. I know that the squirrel tables are everywhere and they're selling like crazy. So something as different as this, there's really no telling what you can get out of a set. So let me teach you how to build them. And as always, if you're a plans in the hand type of person, head over to my website. I'll throw a link in the description. So for both of these tables that I'm about to show you how to build, the condiment holder picnic table and the napkin holder, all of these smaller parts will be the exact same as the squirrel feeder picnic table. So I will not be covering these end pieces because I've already done it in that video. So if you're interested in building these and you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out. Again, All of these end parts, they're exactly the same, exact same lengths. The only difference between that squirrel feeder and these will be the lengths of the bench slats and the tops. So I'm going to start off with the condiment holder. We will get it to this point. The only difference to this step is the length of the bench slats. So these are actually 12 inches long instead of 10 inches. Now the major difference for this one is going to be the tabletop. In the squirrel feeder we had slats that went all the way across to make the tabletop, but for this one we're going to take the full width of our fence picket, which is 5.5 inches, and then we'll have a length of 12 inches to match the bench slats. Now I've left mine a little bit long because I'm going to be doing some cutting here in a minute and I wanted something to clamp to. But this is the layout that you need for your tabletop. Okay, so it's 12 inches long. This is going to be for the salt and the pepper. Those are 1 3/4 inch circles, with the center point being 1.5 inches in from each edge. Now for the larger bottles, these are 2.5 inch, and the center point will be 3.25 inches from each end, giving you this. So to make this top, I'm just going to cut these holes out using a hole saw for each size. And here's a tip for cutting holes with a hole saw to keep from blowing out your material in the back. Just drill halfway through one side of your material, flip the board over, put your drill bit in the hole that's already cut, and then finish cutting the hole this way. This will make sure that both sides of your material has a nice edge. And then once you get those cut, you can either sand around each one of these holes, knocking off that sharp edge, or in my case, I'm going to use a round over bit with the router just to clean things up. Okay, so now with the holes in our tabletop made, let's go ahead and head over to the table saw. We're going to make some fake slats. I'm going to start off by raising my blade up to 1/8 inch, and then I will make cuts at 3/4 inch, 1 3/4 inch, and 2 3/4 inch on both sides. The 2 3/4 inch should put you right in the middle. Then once you do that, you'll have something that looks like this. So now we have fake tabletop slats. Let's go ahead and put the rest of this together. So before we actually install this tabletop, we have one more piece that we need to install. And that's going to be this. So I've used the exact same 1 1/4 inch material that I did for my legs, cut 2 slats 10 inches long, glued those together, and threw a couple of brad nails in. This little cross piece is the same dimension, except it's only 4 inches long and placed in the center. This is what's going to hold the salt and pepper up. So once you have this little support piece made, I'm just going to install this on the inside, center it, and attach it to each one of our ends. So once we have this installed, now we can actually install our top. Now you can install this a couple of different ways, but I want it to match my benches. So I'm actually going to put screws in where all of my fake slats actually end up. And there we have it, our little condiment picnic table. So yeah, these are the wrong colors, but I have those ordered. Pops right in. There's salt and pepper. Perfecto. The one for the napkin holder, it's even easier than this. Let me show you how to build that one. So for the paper towel holder, we can build this out all the way to this point. And again, this is built exactly like the squirrel table. Same dimensions for both ends. The only thing that we're changing are the length of our slats. So for this, we'll be needing 15-inch slats for the bench and the tabletop. And then you can go ahead and install all of those. The only other things that we'll need, again using the same material, is a board that is 1 inch long by 14 inches long. And this will actually be what holds the roll of paper towel into place. So I've kind of rounded over the edges of all of this. If you've noticed the holes in the ends of these, that's going to be for these. You're going to need 2 number 20 machine screws. They're dirt cheap, that are 2 inches long. So to attach this to our table, I'm going to turn the table upside down and actually slide it in. Then I'll center it on this bottom rail on both sides. Then I'll drill a 3/16 inch hole all the way through this board and through the paper towel holder. And I'd also recommend counterboring your holes. But from the bottom, this will just slide in and into your paper towel holder. And from the top, once your paper towel is installed, I'll just put a nut on top, making this super easy to unscrew and change out your paper towels. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to get this paper towel started through one of our slats. Then I'll install my center board through the middle, and then just fasten it with my screws. And now you have the perfect summertime grill combo with paper towel dispenser. If you enjoy videos like this and you do not want to miss an episode, make sure to hit my logo in the bottom right hand corner, which is also the subscribe button. Alright, so for this next one, there's actually a couple of different builds that the OPB has done using only 4x4s. Alright, so what I love about this build is how simple that it is. Okay, it's all the same material. It has a super cool look and The old PB's getting $600 a piece out of these things. But unless you're using like some super cool authentic reclaimed wood, you're not going to get $600 out of these. But the cool thing is, for reclaimed wood 4x4s is one of the easiest things to get your hands on. So again, always keep your eyes open for old barns, old buildings, or anything like that coming down, and see if you can snag some boards. If you're making this out of store-bought 4x4s and you want to add this distressed look to it, check out some of my other videos on distressing wood and you can achieve this identical look. That's all that they've done here. Like for an example, the bandsaw look going down this material. Bend a couple of teeth on a jigsaw, run it right across the top, and you've got this look. But the first thing that caught my eye about this build is that it was under their best sellers list. Anytime that you can find something that is a bestseller, that means obviously it's selling. It's selling the best. People are buying this stuff. So that means that you need to take that idea, put your twist to it, change it up a bit, and you sell it. Let it be your bestseller too for a fraction of this price. So they're not even using real 4x4s. They're cut to 4x4 dimension, but take a look at the ends of this thing. It's a bunch of glued up wood into a 4x4 shape. Honestly, it would be a heck of a lot cheaper and a lot less work just to use actual 4x4s, but to each their own. So this table is 24 inches tall by 24 inches deep by 24 inches wide. The 4 legs on the outside, like we've discussed, they're just 4x4s. For the tops and the bottoms in the description, they say that it is 2-inch material. If that is 2-inch material, then it is going to be a full thickness 2-inch. It actually looks more like 3-inch to me, but however, so if you're using 2-inch material and you're using actual 4x4s that you have distressed or that is already distressed, to get the material for the tops and bottoms, just split that 4x4 in half. So like this. This was a reclaimed pine 4x4, and by splitting it in half, you'll still get this nice rustic look on one side, and then on the other side, you have more of the cut fresh wood look. So for the tabletop, guess which side's going up? It's going to be the nice rustic side. So the same thing for the bottom of this. If you've split this thing in half, flip that baby over, put the fresh cut sides of the top and the bottom facing down. Then to actually create that top and bottom, they've joined all of these boards together. The 2 boards that are on the very outside, those will actually be shorter boards to account for the 4-inch or 3.5 if you're using new material, but to account for the leg thickness on each side. This would keep you from cutting them out later. So go ahead and remove that material from those 2 outside boards, glue all of this up, and once it's dry, you can attach it to the legs. There's several different ways that you can attach the legs to the tabletop and bottom. You can put brackets on the underneath, but honestly, I would probably do some dowel joining just to make sure everything is held together nice and tight. That's most likely what they have done, and that's one of the reasons why you can't see any fasteners. But if it were me, I would actually drill my dowel hose all the way through my legs into the tops and bottoms, install my dowel about 5 inches in on each side, and I would use dowels that had contrasting colors to the wood that you're installing it into. But that's just how I would do it. But like I said, there's several different ways that you can join this, but once it's joined, it's done. I mean, you're pretty much making a cube here. And the cool thing about side tables is usually people don't just buy one. So if they're going to buy one of these, they're going to buy 2, and they're probably going to want the matching console table, which brings me to this one. So this $1,000 4x4 console table is built exactly like the side tables that we just talked about, is also on the bestseller list. So to get on this bestseller list, they're actually getting these prices for it. So $1,000 for this and $600 a piece for these side tables. So the only difference in this console table versus the side table will be the dimensions. So for the legs for this console table, they'll be 30 inches long each. And then for the tops and bottoms, they're going to be 16 inches deep by 54 inches long. And again, you can make these as long or short or whatever size that you would like. As far as assembly, we'll be doing the exact same thing that we did for the side tables. And now you have 2 different products made out of the exact same material, assembled the same way, that you can sell. And like I said earlier, if you find someone that wants this style, they're going to at least want 2 side tables and the matching console table. And actually, just by looking at this design, people love this chunky look right now. What if we took the bottom of this console table and raised it up to maybe the halfway point? Then you would have more of like a kitchen island type of a look. Or let's say we raised it up and widened it out, and then you would have this look as a kitchen table. So as you can see, with just a little bit of creativity, you can take this exact same style, this exact same assembly, make just a few minor adjustments in shape, then you would have several different products that are on the bestsellers list. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to bring it down in size just a little bit, and this will be perfect for spring and summer. Everyone's been cooped up over the winter, ready to get out in the yard, play some games, have some barbecues, and that's where these babies come in. People tend to like giant anything whenever it comes to games. There's the giant Jenga that we've covered, you know, the giant checkers like that they have at Cracker Barrel and places like that. And now you have the giant dice, which is actually pretty cool. that you can play dice games outside in the yard. So the old PB is wanting $50 for this set, which actually is not bad. Kudos, PB. You're actually getting into people's price range. And that is a price range where people will not hesitate to make a purchase, especially whenever it comes to entertainment. So things for their kids, games to entertain their guests. It's kind of like cornhole. It's like a barbecue or get-together staple. So you may be wondering, why is PB selling something for so cheap? $50 a set, and they know that they can sell them. The reason why is because you can make this entire set for $2. Okay, so they're getting $50 a piece, which is not a bad price. I would probably charge around $40, but there's $2 in material in this. Each one of those blocks are 3.5 by 3.5. What else do you know of that is 3.5 by 3.5? It is the common 4x4 these days. And if you cut them into 3.5-inch blocks, you get this. So I cut this off of the end of a 4x4, sanded over each one of the corners. The only thing left to do to this would be to add the dots for the dice. I've taken a close look at this, and their dots, I'm sure there's a name for the dots on a dice. They're not just called dots. If you know what the name for the little dots that are on a dice actually are, then drop it into the comments, because I have no clue and I'd like to know. But anyway, for this video, I'm just going to call them dots. So after taking a close look at these, I noticed that they actually burnt these in. Just based on the measurements, they're going to be right around 3/4 of an inch. So yes, if you wanted to go that way, you could actually heat up some round stock, put your dots on. It's going to take forever. Most likely what they do is they have these steel plates that will have the dots cut out, and then they'll just run a flame across the top. But if it were me, to make this even easier, what I would do is just make a template out of cardboard for each one of the sides of the dice. And then once you have your templates made, you set that right on top of each side of your dice and take some spray paint or some stain and just fill in your template. And then once that's done, you'll have a 3x3 wooden die. See? Not dice, die. And there's one, I think. So you'll make 6 of those per set, and out of a 96-inch long 4x4, you will get 26 blocks, or 4 sets with 2 extra. And if you want to add an extra $1 to the cost of this set and make your item stand out, pick up some of those cinch sacks. On Amazon, they're a little over $1 a piece if you buy them in bulk. So now in total, you have right around $3 a piece in this entire set. And again, this is based on today's prices, which is $8.95 for an 8-foot 4x4, but $3 a piece for this set. Again, they're asking $50 a set. I would probably knock that down to $40. And if you really want to move these things, put them at $35 a piece and they will sell. This next one I've seen on all kinds of different sites, so that tells me that it is hot and people are buying these. And we've covered abstract wall art before, but this is a little different style. I like this. So this style of wall art is made entirely of wooden slats. And they're making all kinds of cool designs using the exact same style. They have designs that look like that they are mountains. They have others that are just completely abstract triangles. But the one that I'm going to talk about today, because it caught my eye, is this 2-piece design that has this 3D looking square right in the middle. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed whenever I saw this is that, again, everything is completely made out of slats. Each one of these slats are 1 inch tall, either 3/4 or 5/8 wide, and then it looks like that they've used about 1/4 of an inch spacing in between each one. But what I liked about this design is that there's only one angle that they've used to create this, and that's a 45 degree. Each one of these panels are 19 inches wide by 38 inches tall. They come in as a set of 2 for $203 for the set. And another thing that caught my attention about this is that it will not only look good inside of your house, but it would make awesome outside wall decor. So let's say by a pool or by a sitting area. Everyone wants to decorate things up, so give them something to decorate with. If you look really close, you can actually see a backing to this. So I'm going to guess that it's super thin, maybe 1/8 of an inch backing. Just something to glue or to fasten these to. As far as the strips themselves, this one is actually made out of pine. I would actually use a pine 2x6, 2x8, 2x10, whatever that you would like. Set your saw to 3/4 or 5/8. Start cutting strips. And then to quickly get these 45 degree pieces, I would take those strips, bundle them together on my miter saw, make a 45 degree cut across several at one time, and then start laying all of this stuff out to length. So for that 3D square that's in the middle, there's a 45 degree angle on each side of each board. But you don't have to put that on whenever you're assembling this. Put the 45 degree angle on one side, then actually just leave a little bit of leftover hanging over your backer board, and then repeat that for every single piece all the way around this, Once that glue dries, take a straight edge and a circular saw, cutting everything to match your 19 by 38 backboard, and then in the process of doing that, the 3D square in the middle, any of those overhang pieces will actually be left with a 45-degree angle, even though you're making a straight cut. So again, wall art has always been hot, it always will be, and what makes this style super cool is that there's so many different options that you can do with it. It would be super cheap to build, and you're not limited to just indoor use. So for somebody looking for something different, this is it. This caught my attention right off the bat, and I can guarantee you I'm not the only one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and realized just how easy that it is to take an existing product, put your own twist to it, and create something completely different, like this napkin holder. To my knowledge, it doesn't exist until now. And that's what it takes to make money with woodworking, being creative.